If I stand roughly here, I can like frame out all the shit that's in the background. Hello friends, how's it going? Today I wanted to have a little chat about Dracula Daily and this year's podcast version, Dracula. So if you're not already aware, back in the summer of 2022, a creator called Matt Kirkland started doing a project called Dracula Daily. The Dracula novel by Bram Stoker is an epistolatory novel, which means it's comprised of diary entries, letters, etc. All of those letters have dates. So what Matt Kirkland started doing was he started up a email chain where he would email out that day's entry of Dracula based on the date. It starts with Jonathan Harker going to Transylvania to meet the mysterious Count Dracula, and then the story unfolds from there. So, like a lot of people, I signed up for the mailing list last year. I got the Dracula Daily emails. I kept up with them for a little while, but then, life gets busy, and getting an email that's like a very long paragraph of text, certainly for me and the way I kind of consume stories, was not helpful. I was like, oh, this is overwhelming, there's too much of it, and I kind of stopped engaging with the emails. This year, Dracula Daily is running again, but another thing that was really exciting that happened this year with Dracula Daily for 2023 was that a podcast version was also released. Now, I don't believe that Dracula Daily and the podcast Dracula are actually being created in tandem. I think the podcast was inspired by Dracula Daily. They're doing the same thing, releasing podcast episodes each day that is in the Dracula novel. But because Dracula is obviously public domain, you don't have to get the rights to do it. So basically anyone can make Dracula content if they want to. Dracula is produced by Bloody FM. And it is so incredible. It has different actors playing each character. It's not just like a standard audiobook. It's each character is cast. It's got amazing like sound design and effects. It's so great. So for me personally, I've been way more engaged with Dracula this year than I was last year, because listening to a 5-6 minute episode every day, I mean, some of the episodes are literally like 30 seconds long because the entry that day is very, very short. Some of them so far have been up to like 16-17 minutes long. There will be longer ones as we get in. If you know the story of Dracula, you know it gets pretty intense down the line. So I imagine future episodes, some of them are going to be much longer. But that variation in length is something that's been really interesting. And getting an audio version every day, like I have it set to notifications on my Spotify, which I don't have for most. I only have for my very, very favorite podcasts, because otherwise it's just annoying to get a notification every time someone uploads a new episode. But I have the notifications on for Dracula. So every morning I check my phone and I get so excited when there's a new episode of Dracula out. I get to find out what our buddy Jonathan Harker is up to that day. We haven't heard from him in a while. The reason I wanted to talk about this today is because of the communal aspect. We had this last year with the regular Dracula Daily emails, and I'm so in love with the podcast that I could gush about it for ages, but I don't want to diminish what the original Dracula Daily was and how great that was, how important that was. All the work and amazing stuff that Matt Kirkland created originally, and that has now inspired this incredible podcast and has gone on to like create this wonderful little community that is Dracula Daily. And I think the community aspect of it is the most important thing. It grew completely naturally from people signing up for a mailing list, getting an individual email to their inbox every day, and then going online and discussing it and making memes. And it has just become this incredible experience where we're all, even if you've read Dracula 1,000 times and it's your favorite book, or if you've never read Dracula before, if you've only seen a movie version of Dracula but you've never read the original text, everyone is coming together and experiencing this story together at the same time. There's something really magical about that. And it ties into this like primal need for communal storytelling. If you look back at history, prehistory, like as long as there's been humans, we've been telling each other stories to entertain ourselves and others, to impart wisdom, to teach morals, like every conceivable reason we've been telling each other stories. And I think something, that was highlighted by the pandemic, but has been an issue for a very long time is, this growing sense of isolation a lot in modern society, people feeling cut off from one another. Bram Stoker's Dracula was originally published in 1897. And it's 2023. It's 2023, and we are engaging with this story communally in a way that I think people would have originally when it first came out. Bram Stoker was not the first person to write about vampires. Vampire legends had existed for thousands upon thousands of years before that. Sheridan LaRue's Carmilla was already out. There were other vampire novels before that inspired Bram Stoker. However, this was incredibly popular when it first came out. It popularized a lot of things about vampires that are now considered like vampire canon. And it has also become one of the most classic depictions of vampires. It gets adapted over and over again. Dracula Daily and Read Dracula are just two of like thousands of Dracula adaptations. Bram Stoker was a very effective writer. When you're in Castle Dracula with Jonathan Harker and he starts to feel more and more oppressed by the building, he feels more and more trapped, you really feel it. And that is down to Bram Stoker's writing. And I honestly think that writing is served so well by Read Dracula. I'd never listened to a Bloody FM production before. I actually, again, I should have done literally any research before I just started talking into a camera, because I could have looked up whether this was their first production or not. I don't know if it is. I will definitely be listening to whatever future projects they do, because they're incredible. The way that they have translated this to an audio format, while, they keep all of the descriptive language, they read all the passages, but they also imbue it with so much life. The characters are so alive. They've cast it superbly. And then it's aided so much by the sound design, which, it bolsters the plot, and it also creates a real sense of dread, because nothing that sinister has necessarily happened yet, at least early in the book. You get this real sense of dread, like something bad's about to happen. And obviously as modern readers, we know about Dracula. We're not, in 1897, nobody had heard of Dracula. It was just a random name. So you didn't necessarily know he was going to be a vampire. You knew he was shady, but you didn't know in what way as of yet. Obviously modern readers are not going to have that same experience, because Dracula is pretty much synonymous with vampire now in our culture. Coming back to my point about communal storytelling, it's just been so lovely to get to read a lot. It's essentially like being in a book club, but you only read like a little bit each day. Everyone is just engaging in this story as it comes. So when we first met Jonathan on that train, we were going, oh, Jonathan's having such a lovely time. I know he's going to his doom, but I hope he just can just not go to Dracula's castle. What if he just hung out instead and had a nice holiday? When we first meet Mina when she's writing her journal, or when we first meet Lucy when she's writing a letter to Mina, there's such joy in both of those characters. They're so happy at the point of their lives that they're in. They're both about to get married, and they're apprehensive but excited. And it's so beautiful to hear. But you know that these characters are kind of doomed, and it's tragic and it's engaging. And getting to go on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, like wherever you go online, and go into the little Dracula Daily tag and go, oh my god, I love Lucy's so cute today. Oh, she's so sweet. And oh, what's up with this crazy doctor in the asylum? He's kind of freaky. And why is this guy eating spiders? You know, like, it's just so wonderful to engage with this story bit by bit with the world. So I cannot recommend enough Dracula Daily and Read Dracula. I'm just so happy that projects like this exist. If Matt Kirkland or any of the people from Bloody FM are watching this video, I can't imagine you are, but just in case, can I make a few suggestions of other public domain things that might work in this format? Because I have some suggestions. So, firstly, if you want something that's in a similar format that you can do like corresponding with dates, we have got Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. As the title implies, it is set over 80 days. And it finishes on Christmas, so I think this would be a lovely little thing to have. Maybe not this year, maybe you wouldn't be able to get it together in time for this winter, but certainly next winter it could be really nice, especially with the full cast. It could be so cool. Then, if you want something more in keeping with the vibe of Dracula, where everything's terrible and scary, and actually it relates a lot to current situations, but in a weird way, might I recommend A Journal of a Plague Year by Daniel Defoe. I started reading this in like April or May of 2020 because I thought it would be funny. Not funny haha, but like funny in a kind of, oh, you know, we're locked down, we're going through a plague, haha, story about the Black Plague. It's not, it's harrowing. I couldn't finish it. I genuinely couldn't finish it because it was kind of giving me PTSD and I just couldn't. And I haven't picked it up again since, so I do need to finish it. But it would be so much more enjoyable if some lovely audio production company out there were to adapt it for me and I could listen to it that way. This would have been very on the nose to do back in 2020, even in 2022. But I think, you know, not that COVID is gone. I would like to state that for anyone who thinks the COVID's just gone away and we're all fine now. It's not. But I do think we've moved on enough from the immediacy of it that doing an adaptation of this wouldn't cause people so much PTSD. Now, in terms of classics that aren't necessarily in the same format but could easily be done in little chunks, there's, of course, Sheridan LaRue's Carmilla, it's very short, but it could be broken up easily, I think, be same vampire vibe. I think that could be very cool. Or if we want to go, you know, kind of same era but very different, same sort of vibe but in a very different genre, can I suggest The Picture of Dorian Gray, specifically the uncensored version, which again I've read and loved and cried over Picture of Dorian Gray. I have not yet, I literally just got this, I have not read the uncensored version yet, but if any of you watching are not aware, so Oscar Wilde, very well known as being a queer writer, but he wrote this book, which is, I mean, all of his work is queer. This book specifically is very, very queer and had to be censored in order to be published. This is the uncensored version as Wilde originally wanted it. It's got that like dark, ominous vibe. It's very luxurious, but it's also got the wit of Oscar Wilde, and it's got just, I think it would be great. Again, it's not an epistolatory novel, but I think it could work in little chunks. So that would be another recommendation. So that's me done well, no it's not. I could talk about Dracula Daily and read Dracula 4 hours, but I feel like that wouldn't really achieve anything and I'd just be saying the same thing over again, but like more excited and more hyper. So I'm going to stop it here. If you're reading or listening to Dracula this year, let me know down in the comments because I'd love to chat to you about it. If you love vampires but you either hadn't heard of this or just hadn't engaged with it because you thought it wasn't for you, I cannot recommend enough giving it a try because it's so exciting. I'm having such a wonderful time. That's all from me today, but I will be back soon to do another unstructured rant video about a thing that I enjoy, or possibly a thing that I hate but in an entertaining way. I'll see you soon. Bye! While I have you, I just wanted to make a quick note. So if you are a subscriber, which you're not because nobody subscribes to this, I'm speaking into the void. But if you have watched any of my previous videos, specifically if you watched the video I made about the Barbie movie, you might have noticed that it's gone. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about why. As I'm sure you're aware, the WGA, which is the Writers Guild of America, and SAG-AFTRA, which is the Actors Union, are currently on strike. They are specifically striking against the big studios, not against indie productions, video games, things like that. Now, when I recorded that Barbie video, I really didn't think anything of it. I'd just been to the cinema to see it, I'd had a wonderful time, and I wanted to scream about it. However, after I'd uploaded it, I ended up reading the SAG-AFTRA guide for influencers about how they can support the strike and what kind of work they would ask influencers not to make. Now, I didn't pay too much attention to it because I'm not an influencer. I'm just some random girl talking about shit. But what I am is an actor. When I lived in the UK, I was represented by Equity. I was a member. I am currently have not been able, I'm in the process of registering with Irish Equity, but I very much believe in unions. I'm a union person, I'm a union supporter. So at the time, I didn't consider that making that video about the Barbie movie was in any way promoting it, because again, I'm nobody. But when I read the instructions for influencers, and specifically influencers who at some point in the future would like to join SAG, I kind of got thinking, oh, wait, hang on, it sort of niggled in my brain a little bit, and I went back and instead of skimming it, I read it thoroughly, and I went, oh no. So while I'm not an influencer, while nobody watched that video, I think it got maybe 40 views or something before I took it down, embarrassingly low views, I still, the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt about it. And, it's not just for my own benefit. There's the obvious sort of pragmatic view where, I don't want to be someone that crosses a picket line because that will affect me negatively for work in the future. If I was to ever move to the States, which I don't see happening, but just hypothetically, if I ever did, I would want to have the option to join SAG. So I don't want to do anything that would be crossing their picket lines. But also just from a moral standpoint, I don't want to cross the picket line. I would never cross a physical picket line, ever. It's just not what you do. Unions are a big deal. And the more I thought about it, the more I could not in good conscience leave that video up. And the more I was kind of shocked at myself for making it at all. And it just had genuinely not occurred to me that was in some way breaching the strike. The thought had not entered my head, which now looking back on it, I don't understand why that thought didn't enter my head. I think I just had Barbie brain because, again, the movie's very good. I enjoyed it. But, yeah, so that's why the video's taken down. Hopefully, I'm working on a few kind of performance projects and actory things. So hopefully in the next 6 months, maybe, there might be something here that's a performance thing. you know, there's no guarantees on that, because you know what it's like. But we'll see. But once the strike is over, I might talk about, you know, more current things. But that's what life's going to be like going forward. Ah! I just knocked over my iced tea.